my inspirations are actually quite far reaching. And my inspirations, I think, is one of the reasons why my work is so rich in context and in color and in textures and in textiles, because my eyes are always open and my ears are always open. I'm inspired a lot by my friends. I'm inspired a lot by culture, by music, by humanity, by spirituality, by myself, and by fantasy. Carrying on from that, actually, I'm inspired a lot by my experiences, being born in Jamaica, growing up in Jamaica, moving through so many different economic positions while I was in Jamaica until I moved to the Cayman Islands. And that's a completely different terrain and a completely different space and a completely different experience of learning that I had growing up between these two places. Now, I love books, so I thought it might be fitting to illustrate the things that I actually am interested in through books. So, one of the people that I'm really inspired by, she's a writer, Brazilian writer, Clarice Lispector. This is one of my favorite books, The Passion According to GH. And the way that she writes is just incredible. And it's almost like you cannot follow the story because it makes no sense. But at the same time, it makes so much sense if you really dig into it. So I'm really inspired by her. Another person that I'm really inspired by is Frances Upachurd, who is an amazing artist from New Zealand, but based in London. Her work is just so incredible, so spiritual, so lyrical, just so beautiful. The way that she's managed to take a bunch of different influences and create a voice of her own. I think that's something that I'm really inspired by a lot of artists. When I look at the range of artists that I'm inspired by, it's really people who take from different aspects of cultures and can bring that into an honesty that is their own. So another artist from who's also actually from Brazil, Paulo Piota. I think he's just so incredible. He's quite new, but his work is just so fascinating to me because I think he's probably around the same age as me, or maybe a little bit older. It's so off the region, it's so South American, it's so Caribbean, it's so familiar to me, all of these feelings that he's capturing, but with references that are coming from so many different places. So that's another person that I'm really inspired by. When we are looking at fashion, how could you not be inspired by Margiela? He's just the template for thinking in fashion, and having something to say through fashion. So yeah, he's amazing. And last but not least, or actually this is not the last one, this is the last book, En Masse, which is a book by Claire Tonkins and Krista Thompson looking at carnival and performance in the Caribbean. Another artist that I'm super inspired by is Lee Scratch Perry, which I don't have a book here, but he's just incredible. I use a lot of silk, actually, different types of silk, different weights of silk, because it's really about examining the way that the fabric moves around the body. Also because in menswear, that's something that is usually not explored with enough. The sensitivity that you can create with draping. And also, actually, even though I do work with a lot of fabrics that I can drape with, it's really about balance. It's really about creating the tension between the draping, which is something that is not often explored in menswear, and the structure, which is something that quite often is explored in menswear. So silks, crepons, crepes, chiffons, I really gravitate towards fabric like that, but it only makes sense when it's compared to or when it's paired with more structured fabrics like denim and corduroy. I also work a lot at nighttime, like even if I'm tired, even if like it's cold, which I'm tired and it's cold. But there's just something about working at nighttime because there's this feeling of calmness and of stillness. And I think as an artist, as well, it's important to work through points of discomfort, because also just the joy and the value of working shouldn't really stop you if you're tired. Sometimes the best work comes from that time when you're tired because it's a lot more intuitive and it just whatever's inside just comes out. Yeah, I don't really have like a point of the day that is best to work in. Sometimes it's good to work in the morning, sometimes it's good to work at midday, sometimes it's good to work through the night. Now, because we are always switching hats so often, when it comes to the perfect workplace, there is no such thing. For designers, it's actually really hard to find space to work. and no one really knows how to use a bedroom floor like a fashion design student, because you're switching so many hats, because you're in so many different moods. It's like you almost have to just make whatever space you have work, and you have to learn to work wherever you are. What am I working on now? A lot. I think this is the first time in my life that I will not be a student anymore. So coming out of university, there's a lot of stuff that I need to set up, but I have like such a huge list of stuff that needs to get done. So just trying to keep active, trying to keep busy, because it's important to keep going, and it's important to not lose momentum and to not stop. Um, Especially with everything that's going on in the world today, I think once we come out on the other end, it's going to be very important that the people who create and define culture keep going, because this is what we're going to need coming out on the other end, really. And also, culture really defines how a city views itself, and culture really defines how a world views itself. So I think it's really important to have a very healthy relationship with those who are creating culture, and also taking that time to just step back and think and write. I'm doing a lot of writing, a lot of reading, a lot of organizing, just figuring out how I want to move forward from here. I think it's important to take that time to just take a step back and reevaluate, and then so that when you come out on the other end, you kind of have a clear focus of how to move forward.